Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. Dear viewers, this is another episode of the Vaal University of Technology Cooperative Education Work Integral Learning Show, live here at COMETSA Television Network, our live streaming platform. My name is Tsima. I am your regular host and anchor of this show. This is the edition number 24 of this program. This program has been running for a couple of years, since June 2023. We're focusing on educating and informing our stakeholders, key stakeholders being our students and those who are planning to join the Vaal University of Technology to follow various kinds of studies, degrees, diplomas, but very much interested in being assisted in the transition from the world of learning into the world of work. How privileged they are indeed that we get them, the professors from the faculties, that we get them industry partners to come and talk about the journey ahead of them. This is the mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that take us to our destiny. That is our motto, that is our philosophy. These shows are based on the principle we call the idea. We inform, we develop, we empower, we associate. This evening, the show is focusing on a theme: students' career readiness and transition to tourism and ecotourism sectors in Southern Africa. We are going to talk about careers, opportunities, entrepreneurship, transformation in the sector. One of the very important sectors in our country, in our region. Everybody in the world wants to see Africa, and in particular, in this case, Southern Africa and what it has to offer. So the students who are studying ecotourism and tourism and hospitality and all other legs of tourism have great opportunities ahead of them. But we are here to make those opportunities visible and available to the students. We have a guest, as always. I am always delighted that we can always have an academic colleague from the faculty, department, or position within the university joining a specialist industry partner to talk about these topics, building the bridge between the two areas. We have Professor Limpho, Lekaota, HOD, Tourism and Integrated Communications, Faculty of Human Sciences at the Vaal University of Technology. From the industry, we have Christine Landsberg, the stakeholder executive, engagement executive at the Tourism Transformation Council of South Africa, TTCSA, a very known key player in the tourism industry indeed. We are delighted that she's going to share with us some of the ins and outs of this sector from a policy perspective, but also from the industry perspective. We're supposed to be joined by Dr. Eni Mulezani, who's the Director for Student Academic Development at the Cooperative Education Department. She is held up. She's not going to be able to join. Hopefully, the colleagues might join us from her department, and we will welcome them. They always accompany us because they are the custodians of this bridge that we are building between the industry and the university. Let's start very slowly in getting to know our guest this evening. Limpho, I'm sure people are wanting to know about you and your background, your journey, and the work you do at the university. Perhaps you could just start by introducing yourself, tell our viewers where you hail from, the journey that you traveled until you find yourself where you are today. In short, I know it's a mouthful, but hopefully you can say it in a few words. Over to you and greet our viewers.
Good Good morning, Mr. Sam, and
good evening to you.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Sam, and good evening, the viewers. I'm so sorry for that. My name is Limpho Lekaota. Yes, I'm an associate professor. I'm currently the head of department in the tourism and integrated communications. If I can talk about my journey or my background in academia, I've started my journey in academia from high school level. I was a student. I'm from the rural areas, and I worked very hard because I had ambition of achieving a lot in life. I made sure that I worked very hard at my grade 12, and I've managed to pass my grade 12 very well. Then I got admitted at University of Northwest to do my bachelor's of tourism, measuring with tourism and conservation. After that, I worked very hard again. I managed to pass very well, and I've managed to get the bursary to do my honors. And I carried on with the university bursary, the merit bursary that I was given to do my master's in the same university. I worked very hard, I performed well, and I've managed to pass my master's very well. And I got an opportunity of being a lecturer at the University of Northwest after completion of my master's degree. Then I went to University of Pretoria to register for my PhD. Even at University of Pretoria, I've managed to get a bursary to complete my PhD. So I just wanted to highlight this to the viewers that anything is possible. You can start from the rural areas. You can find yourself being at the university. You can find yourself performing well and getting university bursaries or any bursary that you can get from any company. But the universities have got merit bursaries for students whom they performed well. As that is basically what happened to me. I've managed to get those bursaries from my honors and masters and PhD.
Wow. Which rural area is that one, just for the interest of our viewers, Limpho?
I grew up in the rural areas of Lesotho, but we came to South Africa with my parents.
I see. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So you have been working very hard to an extent that it was never an issue for you in terms of funding for education. Is that what you are communicating to us?
Yes, what I'm trying to stress is that even for the viewers whom they are at high school level, if they can perform very well, they can manage to get bursaries, which can make them to be able to enroll at universities. And if they are doing their first degrees and they perform very well, there's what we call the merit bursary at universities, whereby you can get that merit bursary to do your honors degree or master's degree or a PhD.
Yours sounds like it was quite a super highway move. I mean, I know I'm oversimplifying. I mean, you had to work very hard, but I mean, the message you are sharing with our viewers, those who are interested, especially students, is that in the world today, in South Africa in particular, if you work very hard, there is funding available. And you talk about merit, which is what I think you have highlighted. We'll come back to that because I don't want us to ignore this fact that there's so many students out there that have this question all the time, and they don't know of this, how to access these opportunities. We'll come back to that when we talk about accessibility and affordability of education. If you can just keep that in the back of your mind. Thank you for opening up with that. Let's welcome Chrissy from the industry side. Chrissy, I have mentioned where you're coming from. Let me hand over to you to greet our viewers and share with us a bit about your own journey to be where you are today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here with you and the viewers. My name is Kristen Landsberg, affectionately known as Chrissy, so if that helps, I'd be happy to be called that. My journey has been a very interesting one. I am definitely the kind of person that appreciates an interdisciplinary approach to business and to personal development and growth. I started originally studying strategy and communication and data analysis. I think those three complement each other very well, because it's very important to understand the numbers and the behavior analytics behind human decision-making and human intelligence. That kind of led me into the mainstream commercial advertising space, which I enjoyed doing. I worked with multiple big brands, global brands like that of IPG Media House, as well as FCB Africa, to name a few. I have worked with a handful of big brands, including that of Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, Spotify, DSTV, BMW. And I was very fortunate to win every award that I could have won in that industry. And starting as a young person in my working career, I kind of benchmarked myself with awards. Initially, awards mattered to me. I wanted to know that I spoke in a global voice. I wanted to know that I was relatable. I wanted to know that I could send a message, out in terms of being able to really relate to the human societal issue, because at the end of the day, advertising is really about touching the pulse of society and being able to bring that into brand language. I then left advertising, found myself in pharmaceuticals, manufacturing, to name a few, and also had a stint in construction, and I still am actually in construction. However, in construction, I represent a role as a director, so I am an entrepreneur as well. Obviously, for the purpose of this conversation, I am in tourism. It's been an interesting journey for me, and I do share your sentiments with the power of advertising and what the power of tourism, my apologies, and what it can do for our country. It's really important to acknowledge the power that many nations across the world has been able to harness through tourism. Many countries, even in hard times like COVID, were able to sustain themselves through domestic tourism. And I hope that we'll be able to do that both domestically and internationally. But in terms of my scope and my reach of my career, I would say, advertising is where I started. And even moving into other industries, it was largely business strategy, business transformation strategy, and also sustainability strategy. I like to consider the long journey and the big picture, and I like to invest and also assist companies in making decisions on the top end. I started off being a little bit more integrate in projects and working on project specific roles, but at this point in time, I find myself being an expert on business operations and assisting the business as a whole in being able to achieve strategic partnerships and also longevity management and also crisis management. I think COVID really shone a light on the importance of being able to be versatile, responsive, and reactive. And I think that is a skill that every business can definitely appreciate, and that definitely speaks hand in hand to tourism. I think tourism is really about the brand of the country and being able to bring people into the fold as far as our heritage, our cultural resonance, and also who we are as a people and what we have to offer from a human capital and also landscape beauty perspective, and even in terms of our natural resources and our natural richness, whether that be our textiles or indigenous plants. There's so much that goes into tourism, and I think in essence, my career being so expansive, it's kind of helping me in tourism because of how far reaching tourism is as an industry itself. But yeah, that's
just hold it there, because I'm going to come back to that. And that is actually the reason why we framed the topic today like that. And I'm glad you're starting to address that, because that's very powerful what you have just said, that the tourism is, we brand the country through tourism. But let me take you back, because we are also mindful of the key stakeholders of this show being the students and potential students. So 100%. Just inspire them a little bit about, like Sisi Limpho has done. Just inspire them a little bit about your educational journey. Where did you start and what did you study? And when did you decide to do what you do?
Absolutely. I studied at the University of Johannesburg. I'm currently
Yes.
registered at the University of Johannesburg. So for my PhD, I'm a PhD candidate, a master's graduate.
Yeah.
I started in strategy, corporate communication, and I majored in data analysis as well. So my degree is partly humanitarian, but also, statistical and it's got an analytical framework, which I think is very important because data is the future. And understanding data and turning that into insights and language is very important. And Africa as a whole, needs to become more protective and more aggressive about its data, because there's a lot of wealth in that. There's a lot of wealth in understanding where we fit in the global picture and what we have to offer. But in terms of my career, I did do my bachelor, obviously then my honors and my master's degree, currently registered for my PhD in business transformation strategies. And I'm benchmarking against African nations that have done innovative things for their tourism and how that has benefited their economic freedom and their economic participation. And I think what's very important is intelligence, intelligence matter, and also having intellectual property and being able to package yourself as an individual is incredibly important in tourism, and it assists you in applying your knowledge. And I think that's one of the biggest misalignments within tourism is, the theory and the practice. I think tourism is an incredibly practical skill, and it requires a lot of learned experience. And I do think that I would encourage any student that is interested in this beautiful industry to really put themselves out there and really interact with businesses and really want to do hands-on training, whether that is something that is readily available or on a silver platter or something you have to really dig and search for. I really, really encourage you to request that and to look for practical skills that can actually add on to you, because with those skills you can really do anything. And in terms of my career, strategy for me is holistic. I don't think any business can do anything without strategy. I mean, presidents use strategies, nations use strategies, companies use strategies, families use strategies. And I think
absolutely
that
I'm picking it from your inputs that you rating the value of knowledge and education especially for this industry, which for so many of us, Limpho, we have known tourism not to be a difficult industry to go into, because you just go and offer your service or your labor. But what I'm hearing coming out, and I'm sure you're going to address that from the academic point of view, is that actually we do need knowledge, we do need education, we do need qualified people to go into the industry. And that's why universities like Vaal University of Technology is offering these degrees and these diplomas. Maybe just to hook onto what Christy has just been saying and highlighting and emphasizing in terms of education, Sitimpo, when you looked at this topic, what thoughts immediately came to you? I mean, we're talking tourism in specific relation to students. We are saying we want to look at how students' career readiness and transition to this important industry, as described by Christy, should be facilitated. When you saw this topic from an academic point of view, being an HOD responsible for this type of qualification, what came to mind?
Mr. Sam, when I looked at this topic, what came into my mind is the question on whether the Department of Tourism is doing what it's supposed to do to students for them to be ready for the industry.
Yes.
The other thing that came into my mind is the transition. Are we preparing students to transit from the theory that we teach them at the university with what is actually happening in the industry? When I see this topic, what came into my mind is the current graduates' readiness. But I was like, we are trying to do a lot on this because during the time when the students are on campus, we make sure that the students, they go for excursions or field trips to go and see what is happening in the industry so that they can prepare themselves on what they are going to experience in the industry. The other thing that we do while the students are still on campus, we have got the advisory board meetings whereby we invite people from the industry so that they can come and talk with the students, the guest lectures. They can come and talk with the students to inform them of what is happening in the industry. Because us as academics, we are here at the university, but we don't know exactly what is happening in the industry. So the best way is to invite people, the guest lecturers from the industry, to come and talk with our students so that they can know exactly what is happening in the industry, and they must be ready to what is happening in the industry when they go for work integrated learning or when they complete their qualifications. So that is the things that we do. I talked about the field guides, field trips, or the excursions that we take for students to go make them to know or to see how the industry operates, because we believe that if a student is exposed to what is happening in the industry, by the time the student is supposed to go to the industry, at least the student will be knowing what is happening in the industry. The other issue that we do, or the initiative that we take as university, before the students can go for work integrated learning, we make sure that we train, or we hold the workshop. Sometimes we'll have 3-day workshops that we'll be doing for student readiness before they can go to the industry. That is whereby the office of Dr. Muletsani comes in, whereby they help us to train these students and to make them aware of what is happening in the industry and what is expected from them when they go to the industry. So when I saw this topic, I looked at those things that the university or the Department of Tourism is really contributing on this, because of those advisory boards whereby we'll get information from the people from the industry, the guest lecturers that come and teach the students or make them informed of what is happening in the industry, to make them ready for the industry. Those workshops that will have the student readiness workshops that are conducted by the cooperative office together with us, and us taking an initiative of taking students for excursions or the field trips so that they can go see what is happening in the industry and familiarize themselves with what is happening in the industry. So the industry expectations, we talk about those things when they have got this workshop, that these are the things that are expected from you when you get into the industry, because our students, they need to know what is expected from them when they get into the industry. So we do cover all those things. And when I see this topic, I was very happy, because these are the things that we do as the department with the help of the cooperative office. Our students, when they go to the industry, they go ready, knowing what it is expected from them by the industry.
Beautiful indeed. And you know, Christy, I was so excited when I hear you talking about the benchmarking of what is happening all over the world. And having seen so much and following on this topic, I think it speaks to the building of the strong industry-academic partnerships. Do you have any comments about that?
Absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, the Tourism Transformation Council is a triple P. So by nature, we believe in partnership. Yeah. We sit right in the middle of the private sector and the public sector. We are mandated by the Ministry of Tourism, and we have oversight by the National Department of Tourism. We are funded both by NDT, National Department of Tourism, as well as by TBCSA, the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, who represents all the interests of the private sector as far as tourism and travel is concerned. With that being said, we are an NPO, we're a non-profit organization, and our funds are predominantly, kind of ring-fenced for regulation in terms of policy, making sure that the environment is conducive for entrepreneurs to compete, and keeping in mind that there may be skills gaps as well as digital gaps, all the kinds of challenges that exist in Africa. And if you want to create and level the playing field and create empowerment for communities like youth, women, people with disabilities, as well as just historically disadvantaged individuals and families. It's really important to consider the environment they come from and how do we manage that gap. And policy is an incredibly important part of that. And that policy predominantly lives within the BBBE. We work hand in hand with the DTIC, the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, as well as the BBBE Commission. And with that, we are benchmarking and we're doing a transformation survey. We want to do a state of transformation survey to understand the national scope of tourism, where our nodes, where our opportunities are, where the tourism products exist, and also where the benchmarking is, where there is transformation initiatives and innovations, and how do we bring that together to create impact? Because the issue with innovations in isolation is the impact is not large enough and it's not long-standing enough. And what we want to create is a change that we can actually move into generational intellectual wealth and economic activation and participation. Because effectively, if tourism thrives within this country, we become more independent as a country, and we don't have to rely on other nations, much like we've seen the saga with South Africa and America, and what those kinds of international relations does to our businesses and ultimately our brand. And what's important to understand, why I brought up competition and why benchmarking is so important, is because the world, all our potential visitors, are going to compare us and our service and our quality of service to that of other nations. Because at the end of the day, travel can be expensive for those that live in different continents, and they have to make a decision every year as to where they're going and where they'll be spending their money. And we want them to choose South Africa. And the human capital, the students, the future employment force, that is our differentiator. It's the friendliness, it's the ability to personalize, to tailor make your experience, to understand and to also be intuitive enough to know what customers need before they need it. And that's a business skill. So in many ways, tourism education needs to blend with business education so that they understand the acumen, the etiquette, the way to speak, the way to handle. And I really appreciate what Prof mentioned. It's very important to do that integration and that transitioning. And I know that's very on topic for our theme, because I went to different hotels and I asked them, who are they hiring? Who is making it in to the workforce? And ironically and sadly, the truth is they're not hiring a lot of tourism graduates. They're hiring business graduates, they're hiring accounting graduates. And I think the biggest issue is the misalignment. The issue is, I don't think the curriculum is relevant enough. And I do think that the partnership between academia and industry is critical to understanding how does the education that our students get in the classroom translates into practical skills in a real world sense. And I think it's important to embed that with leadership skills. I think tourism requires that. Tourism requires leadership so that we can bring fresh blood into the fold and create a mentorship culture, because I do think this kind of industry requires human touch. It requires practice. It requires practical skills. And I want to encourage even SMMEs to also go with small businesses, need to be mentored by medium-sized businesses, because they are practical skills that are only learned through doing and through service. And I think that tourism is definitely one of those. And I do appreciate the industry as it is, but I do think that this partnership that you're bringing up, it's so critical to addressing all the way down, because I know that even in high school, I hear from students in high school that tourism doesn't get the rep that it deserves. It's considered a last choice,
which is unfortunate, Christy, because the assets that South Africa has compared to the other countries.
Absolutely.
And I think this brings me again to Sis Limpho. I have had a discussion with her around the content that the universities deliver that speaks to the industry. My question is, maybe let me put it this way. Can we just simplify it for a student somewhere in deep rural Skukune Eastern Cape or KwaZulu-Natal, who is doing the last year of their high school, and they are thinking about choosing a degree or diploma, and they hear the word tourism or ecotourism or hospitality. Are we sure that they really know what this is? Because sometimes I think the terminologies we are using in describing the career pathways might just be scary for students. Prof, when you meet your students for the first time in the first day lecture and you are introducing tourism to them, what are the components that make tourism in a simplified way, a way that they understand what they are about to embark on?
Thank you again for the opportunity. At high school level, there are some high schools that offers tourism. Sometimes we get students whom at least they know what tourism is all about, whom at least they covered the sectors of tourism industry at high school level, but obviously they can't be deeper as the university covers them. So it depends on the student. The other student, you may find that the student has done tourism at high school level. The other student hasn't done tourism, has done business modules. So it is a challenge because you may find that some other practicality subjects, the subject like travel and tourism practice, the student will be expected to be knowing the practicality of what is happening in the industry of tourism. But you find that the poor student is clueless. The student has never taken a holiday with the parents, they have never gone anywhere. But it is our duty as the lecturers to make sure that we start the students whereby they understand the sectors of the tourism industry, so that they can understand the careers or the career line that they have taken to be in tourism industry. Because you are very right, the students, they come, Mr. Sam, to us, they are clueless, they don't know what tourism is. Like we offer in my department, we have got a diploma in tourism management and diploma in ecotourism management. You may find that the students can't differentiate. They cannot differentiate between the tourism management and the ecotourism management. So we do experience those kind of issues of students whom they come and join the university without that knowledge. But it is our duty, especially for the lecturers whom they are lecturing first year, to make sure that they familiarize the students with the industry of tourism and they cover all the sectors of the tourism industry so that the students can understand the course that they have chosen when they come to the university. Thank you.
Yeah, we can extend that by talking about when then they are in the university and they want to experience the world of work through WHEEL. Which are the common facilities that they go to? I do come across them in hotels, and sometimes you're like in the nature reserves. From the industry perspective, do we know which are really areas in need of the kind of qualifications that we are offering countrywide? Or is it a question of really building this partnership to a point where we can really direct even the placement of students under WHEEL programs to those sectors? Because layman knowledge, we know hotels, we know B&Bs, we know tours, guides, we know, but when you mention things like ecotourism, I don't know whether, Christy, from your perspective, we're doing enough looking at how rich South Africa is with such geographic areas with so much a variety of assets.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest issues with our country, and also, you know, the beautiful thing about challenges is that's where the opportunities lie. We have spatial development issues. You know, our brand is highly limited internationally. People think of South Africa, they think of Kruger National Park, they think of Cape Town, maybe Sandton, they think of Durban, but there's so many beautiful places in our country. So many, you know, Tsanin, Graskop, Nelspruit, Kwabecha, Umtata, Gordons Bay, so many. I mean, the list is endless. And I think, it's very important for us to really unearth our tourism industry. And I think it's a beautiful time right now for us as a country, because I think we are taking tourism seriously. And I think we're appreciating how much tourism can contribute to the livelihoods of our country, and our GDP, and making our country a more livable, a more enjoyable country for our residents and for our citizens. And I think there are so many things to unpack. I mean, just to add to the list, of course, we've got the hospitality sector, which is your bed and breakfast, your homestays, your homestays would be a lot more entrepreneurial, and that would be a lot more rural, or even, traditional councils where they are homestays, and people want that real cultural, that real authentic experience. And I think when you look at how the world has opened up to South Africa, they want to know about us. And I think the question here is, do we know ourselves? And we need to get to a point where we really understand ourselves, so we can express ourselves. And the youth is a big part of that. We are in a digital age. The youth knows how to manage those resources, how to get the word out, how to brand the country, and we need to mobilize our talent. We are in Africa. Africa is a young country with young blood and creativity, and I think we really need to rally with that. And I think that is our biggest tool. And I think our students should be excited about this industry, because their perspective, their imagination is really what is going to turn this industry around. And like I was mentioning, beyond the hospitality, there's obviously travel services and travel agencies, and there's obviously the tour guides, and then there's also the entertainment space, the casinos. I mean, the industry is so large. Even the air industry goes into that, because when a visitor lands at the airport, the tourism experience starts immediately. And I think it's really important for us to map that out and to make sure we don't miss any opportunities along the way. And I think that if we can get our country to a point where we understand our nodes, whether there's a node for food culture, a node for textile culture, a node for entertainment, a node for music, for example, Mafeking, Mufftown, it's known to be not just locally, but internationally. Michael Jackson has recorded in that town. I don't even think people know that. And I think it's important for us to bring our history back and to archive, our milestones as a country. I think what we've lost is our ability to record ourselves, and Africa in general. We don't own our data. And I think when we start to take ownership, it will be so beautiful for us, and we'll have an opportunity to create beautiful experiences across the country, and that'll create jobs. And and what we'll find is, one of our biggest issues in this country is we complain so much about urban sprawl. But I know for a fact that people who live in rural areas love their area. They don't want to leave their area, but they have to leave their area because there's no opportunities, because people don't know that they exist there. We need to empower our areas to get onto the digital space, to be able to book, to be able to get people to get bookings directly with them, so that they can have a real handle on the economic participation and also the entire ecosystem. And I think there's so much to unpack there. But the beautiful thing about this long list is there's jobs in there, there's opportunities in there. I'm
getting educated myself, because as I said, we focus so much on just consuming and we don't really ask deeper questions. And I think these programs give us the opportunity for a change, not to look at this as somebody to be serious, but as somebody who's interested in terms of what is it doing for our country. And I strongly believe that the universities, Limpho, have got the great opportunities. If you take, for instance, your partnership as a faculty with the Cooperative Education Department, whose mandate is clear, is to facilitate the students' opportunities from university to the industry. And now I'm just sitting and say, I'm sure we can also talk about entrepreneurship rather than just talking about them going to look for a job. And maybe we are not seeing much what the university are doing, but I believe that there is a change at the universities in terms of preparing students. Maybe you need to share with us, in your partnership with the cooperative education at the University of Vaal University, what are the things that are preoccupying your mind about expanding on the opportunities for students, including also them contributing to the transformation that she's speaking about, entrepreneurship, you name it.
Thank you again, Mr. Sam. You know, when Christelle talk about the bookings and all the stuff, the department is in the process of having a travel agent that is going to be run by our students as part of their work integrated learning.
Wow.
I would like to talk about the curriculum alignment. What we do as academics, we have what you call the curriculum alignment, whereby we make sure that whatever that the students do is aligned with what the industry wants, like what Christelle is saying. We can't just produce students whom they are not going to be aligned with what is happening in the industry. So that's the challenging part that we have with academics, because every year we have to make sure that we have those advisory boards to get information from people in the industry to tell us what they're expecting from our students. So that's where we start as academics. We start by aligning the curriculum with what is needed in the industry. Then going to the issue of the placing of students' opportunities. Our students are placed, like what Ntate was saying, we offer the 3-year diploma. In our 3-year diplomas of either tourism, hospitality, ecotourism, the students, they do theory, 2.5 years at the university. The last 6 months, we place our students in the industry. These students, they must do practicality. They must be placed in the industry. That's why we make sure that our students are ready for the industry, because it's part of their qualification. It's part of them to complete their qualification to do the practicality of 6 months. So we place our students are placed in any tourism destinations or any places, any industry, any place in the industry. Like you mentioned the hotels, you mentioned the guest houses, you mentioned other hotels and other places whereby we place students. The eco, obviously, they will be placed in the national parks or any protected areas whereby they will be dealing with the protected animals and the plants, flora and fauna that are found there, which attracts most of our international tourists to come to South Africa. So in terms of the industry partnerships, we work very hard as the institution to make sure that we have got these partnerships with the industry, because we need to have these partnerships. Where will our students go when they complete here? We have to make sure that we have got those partnerships. Organizations like Kruger, we have got an MOU with them, whereby our students, they can go to do work integrated learning, or they can be placed there to do the internships. So we need to have these MOUs with organizations that are related to tourism, so that we can be able to place our students to do work integrated learning, or to ask for them to give them internships so that they can be able to get into the industry of tourism. In terms of the graduate readiness, we try by all means as the department to make sure that our graduates are ready for the industry. Like I indicated, that we make sure that these students are exposed to what is happening in the industry. The university spend money to take these students for excursions. We spend money to take these students for field guiding, field trips. We spend money to invite people, the experts from the industry, to come and tell them what is happening in the industry, because we try by all means to make sure that these kids are ready for the industry. So those are the things that we do as academics to make sure that we align with what is happening in the industry. We partner with the organizations that can benefit our students in terms of work integrated learning and the learnerships when they complete the qualifications. So basically that is what we do in the academic side, but we work together with the industry people so that our curriculum can be aligned based on what the industry wants or is expecting from our students when they complete the qualifications.
And then I assume that the cooperative education and the faculties have the partnership in approaching the industry. Other than via the advisory boards, what kind of input you receive via the cooperative education that informs your work in preparing the students for the industry placement?
The department that I'm heading, they offer work integrated learning in 4 sections. It's tourism, ecotourism, hospitality, and public relations. In all those programs, we do have the wheel coordinators. They are lecturers whom they are assigned specifically to do work integrated learning. So those people whom they are assigned to be work integrated learning coordinators, they work with cooperative education to make sure that the students are placed and they are placed in the reputable organizations. So they work together to make sure that they find the placements for students. So I'm relying on those 4 people because they are the ones that work directly with with cooperative education to make sure that our students, they get placements when they are supposed to go for work integrated learning.
Beautiful.
But we work together because even the MOUs that we have, the MOUs that we draft with the industries, they are done by cooperative education with the guidance of our wheel coordinators and myself, obviously, as the HOD, because they are the ones whom they know about the things that might happen when the student is placed or is doing work integrated learning in the organization. There are some MOUs that cooperative education sign on our behalf because anything can happen when the student is placed in the industry. If the student gets injured, for example, the tourism students, the hospitality students, when a student is in the kitchen, anything can happen to that student. So we need to have these MOAs and MOUs whereby we agree with the industry that if the student happened to be injured on duty while the student is doing practical, what is the responsibility of VUT towards the student and what is the responsibility of the organization toward the students? So we need to have those MOUs and MOAs whereby with the organizations that we place our students when they do work integrated learning.
Beautiful. There's a lot of work behind it, Chrissy.
Absolutely.
We sometimes we always complain and say universities are not shipping enough students into the industry. There's a huge responsibilities that they go through. I wanted also to hear from you from a transformation point of view. How ready are we for the changes that are brought by technology and the AI in particular in this sector? I'm sure you have some perspective there, Chrissy, coming from that background. I don't know. What do you think?
Absolutely, absolutely. The beautiful thing about, again, this industry is we talk about everything because tourism really is at the nexus of everything, you know. Just to start off by commenting on what Prof mentioned, I think the exposure is a very big thing. And I know exposure seems like a small thing, but it really levels the playing field. You know, when we work with our stakeholders who range from South African national parks, which obviously is linked to the Kruger National Park, Addo Elephant Sanctuary, amongst other, Velo, which are all nature reserves, as well as that of FDASA, who represents the industry for hospitality and casinos. They are a very big, large associate body. And obviously we work with all of the tourism authorities, which means every province has a tourism authority. Gauteng Tourism Authority, Western Cape Tourism Authority, which is known as WestGrow, amongst others. And I think the reason I'm bringing this up is I really want to shine a light on how intricate our industry is. And I want to encourage students to really do their research. There are so many different bodies that form tourism. And if you don't know all those bodies, you don't know where all the opportunities lie. And amongst other partners that we have are like that of CATSETA, or the SETAs, if you will. Every industry has a SETA Tourism also is represented by CETA, which also mentions cultural skills, tourism skills, sports skills, all fall within the tourism landscape because it really does attract visitors. And why that's important is, again, CAT-CETA, actually, their job is to disperse funds on behalf of the government to pay for internships and graduates, which means the companies get the funds from CAT-CETA to hire graduates, which is also very much hand in hand with work integrated learning. And also why I want to mention the exposure is another one of our stakeholders is the South African Grading Council. And the Grading Council, you know, for the viewers who don't know, I don't know if you've ever seen those stars that have the South African flag on it. And when you go to an establishment, you see 1 star, 2 stars, 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars. And what those stars really mean is it's an indication of what kind of service and what kind of environment you are paying for as a patron, as a customer, as a client. And why that's important is the service needs to be linked to the promise that that establishment, you know, is benchmarking itself against in terms of the industry. And these are the kinds of things that students would really benefit from in terms of putting themselves out there and learning. Even if it's self-learning, these are the kinds of bodies you need to know exist. But to come back to your question, Sam, regarding technology, obviously we know we're in the era of STEM. Science, technology, economics, and mathematics. And I know that the country has big plans to create the University of AI, which will be in the East Rand, close to Phosphorus. We've seen the blueprints, we know it's coming, and we're very excited, and we can't wait until that opens up because we really want to compete. At the end of the day, here in South Africa, we want to compete. We have talent. We don't have a lack of talent, and we want to compete with the best. And I think at the end of the day, it's really about creating access and opportunity for our students to be able to get the same learning opportunities that any other students could have. It's their right to have access to education and further development. And I think when we talk about AI, that is a very big part of what we look at at the Tourism Transformation Council. We have 4 subcommittees. Our subcommittees are ICT, which is Internet Communications Technologies, as well as funding and finance, because we know that entrepreneurs really struggle with the DFIs, the Development Fund Institutes, and really getting access to that. You know, a lot of the time they are long applications, long lists of requirements and criteria, and many times SMMEs apply to these platforms and get no answer, you know, back. They don't know whether they were close, they don't know whether they were far, they don't really know where they are, and they don't know what to fix. And what we're doing in partnership with NEF, National Empowerment Fund, including that of SEDFA, we are working with these kinds of institutions to say, when we find SMEs within the tourism space that are worth a backing, that stand for youth empowerment, female empowerment, people with disabilities, historically disadvantaged people, we want to put them in a position within the facilitation of our relationship to make sure that we are looking at the application and the process, and we're making sure that those that deserve to be considered and also to be assisted with these criteria are assisted, because at the end of the day, these requirements cost money. Business plans cost money. Town planning costs money. Opening up a BNB, it's not as simple as we think. And sometimes even before they've applied, they've already been discounted. And we are working on that to make sure that the policies and the applications consider those, you know, that have been always left behind. We want to level the playing field. We want our industry to be as diverse as our country. And that really is the benchmark. And beyond funding and finance, we also have skills development, which is very important. Skills development and upskilling and making sure that you're aligned with the industry is incredibly important. So we make sure, as you've mentioned, Mr. Tsima, that we make sure that we are empowering and educating our students for the opportunities and the gaps in the industry. We do not want to overproduce talent that we do not need. We want to make sure that we create specialized schools for tourism, much like engineering has done, much like mining has done. I think it's really important that we look at the gaps and we funnel our students there. It's important that we give them that guidance and that support to say, this is where the opportunities lie. And this is where you should invest your time, and this is where you should invest in personal development. And last but not least, our other subcommittee is ESD, Enterprise Supply Development. As we know, it's very important when we work with our big organizations, whether that be Johnson & Johnson, whether it be Nike, Adidas, whether it be events like Sun International, that when there are opportunities, that SMMEs are being chosen to work and to get opportunities to employ more people, to change livelihoods. And the only way we can do that is by looking at procurement systems, looking at how they hire, and making sure that they are keeping transformation at the core of their agenda. So we are watchdogs, we are facilitators, we are partners, and we are bringing all the important people around the table to make sure we're having very difficult but very important conversations.
Yes. What for me makes me happy is that the variety of options, you know, and I think I would like to believe that 10 years from now, based on what I hear you saying the council is doing and the universities are doing, we should be talking of a different level of tourism sector in the country. If
absolutely
those ideals of transformation are achieved based on the structure you've created here, we should be having completely different sector. And my question
100%.
is, how does that tourism and ecotourism of the future look like? And how, and then I mean, incorporating our key stakeholders being the universities, how can they ready themselves for that? And what kind of a student we need to meet that tourism of the future?
Absolutely. I don't know if as Prof would like to go first. I just finished speaking. I'd be happy to.
Even if it's aspirational.
Absolutely. I'm ready for the question. I just thought I would allow as Prof to go first.
Yeah, Prof.
I think Crystal can go first. I'll come after her. It's fine.
Happy to. Yeah. I think for me, you know, when I look at countries like Thailand, Korea, they've got tourism GDP percentages that are ranging in the 70s. Just to give context to the viewers, we're currently sitting at about 6-7%. That's how much tourism contributes to our industry, about 6 to 7%, right? Now, if we multiply that to 70%, I'm willing to go on a limb and say that our unemployment numbers would look drastically different. Drastically different. The beautiful thing about tourism, it's such low-hanging fruit. There are opportunities at junior level, mid-level, senior level. I really think that the only limitation in tourism is our imagination. I think that at the end of the day, we discount that there's so many tourism activities just because we don't think about it in that lens. For example, bird watching is a tourism activity. Hiking is a tourism activity. Running is a tourism activity. And what that means is we can start creating nodes for that. For example, Ethiopia has provinces that are just dedicated to global world-class mimics of the Olympic running track. Because Ethiopia has produced such beautiful runners, they decided, let's create these tracks. And these tracks are used by athletes from all over the world because they want to be around the best. They want to run with the Ethiopians because they know if they can train with them, that when they get to the Olympics, they will know exactly what they're up against. And also people who run for leisure, people who run for fun, they backpack, they travel all the way to Ethiopia just to see those running tracks. And what we need to do is consider that hiking, we need to mark all our hiking trails. We need to mark all our waterfalls. We need to mark all our textiles. We need to mark all our flowers and our fauna. We need to mark all of our birds, all our butterflies. Just because we don't consider it as activity doesn't mean that the next person won't. At the end of the day, if only 20 million people in the world were interested in butterflies, that is an entire new subcategory. And what does that mean? We could have students who become experts on butterflies. I know that doesn't sound like a job, but it could be. It could be. That's the future, really.
This speaks to, are we customer-centric sufficient enough?
Not enough.
It looks like we are addressing tourism from our own limited knowledge or not knowledge, limited interests, that is not
Yes.
informed by what
Absolutely.
the world wants to hear of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Sam. I think we love our big five. We love our big five, right? But we have pangolins. People don't even know what pangolins are.
Yeah.
You know, we have pangolins, we have anteaters, we have all different types of books, springboks, and all sorts. And the thing is, when we hone in so much into only specific things, we limit ourselves. You know, at the end of the day, creating more opportunities does not take from what is successful. It adds onto that. That means when a customer books an itinerary to South Africa, they're not only going to spend 2 days in Cape Town, 1 day in Joburg, they're going to need to add more days because they need to go and see the culture. They need to go and see how to make traditional beer. They need to go and see how the council is run. They need to go and see all of these things for themselves. And I think at the end of the day, you know, things like quarter festivals, the things that people don't know, that's what they want to learn. And we need to put that on the map. Even our music is a tourism activity. You would want there to be, for example, you know, you said let's do it as aspirational. This is an example of what I would like to do. I would like to see an application, a digital app created by South Africa that people will find QR codes for as they land at the airport. And when they download that app, I want them to know every musical artist that's performing in every province, at every bar. I want them to know every comedian that's performing, at what dates, at what time. I want people to be able to customize their itinerary, not just the generic Cape Town yacht experience, Table Mountain. Don't get me wrong, these things are beautiful, but we have so much more to offer. Learning how to dance, learning how to speak languages, even if it's crash courses on social lingo. Maybe you don't want to learn the whole language, but you want to know how to hail a taxi. You want to know how to say hello. You want to know how to play with kids in the street. Those kinds of activities, those kinds of classes, that's an entrepreneurial opportunity. These are the opportunities, you know, allowing people to live like us, to breathe our air, to feel what it feels like to be a South African. That is what we need to package. And at the end of the day, there's just so much that we could discuss, all the way to the fact that South Africa is where humanity started. The cradle of humankind is where we found the very first human remains. There's so much. From human origins, all the way to animals, all the way to food, all the way to cuisine. Why don't we teach tourists how to make cook sisters? You know, why don't we teach tourists how to make malva pudding? All of these kinds of classes should be readily available. We shouldn't be allowing our tourists to have to dig through the internet, because that's a deterrent. And this is opportunities for SMMEs. Think outside the box. For example, think about games, you know, Raba, all of the games that we used to play that we know about when we grew up. Tourists would love to learn how to play that. Why isn't there sets of them?
Some of us can even teach it. We grew up playing it.
Absolutely. We should have that at the airport.
Prof, this speaks to... Prof, this sorry, thanks.
Absolutely, thank you.
I like the energy. I like the energy and the passion, because that's what we need. This speaks to entrepreneurship and innovation in the sector, because it 100%. Looks like these things won't happen on their own, Prof.
Thank you again, Mr. Sam, and Christelle is challenging us. Yes. When we talk...
And sorry for Prof, before you come in, she mentioned the affinity to technology by our students. And I think I want to add to say that perhaps innovation should come in there, whether in the university or when they are doing work integrated learning, or some sort of a center whereby, I mean, these things are there. We need to put the pieces together. We need to be innovative. And I think we need to create a space for this innovation to happen, rather than just sending people to traditional intervention that we know. And this needs to be funded in a way that supports the strategy and the policy of the country when it comes to innovation. So perhaps, Christy, this is not the last time we speak to you. Perhaps we need to speak even more at the work level, where we are innovating and creating, and come back here and say it's happening. Prof, sorry, I took your time.
You know, I'm so much challenged because when we talk innovation, it's one of our mission at VUT. We are planning, or our intention, even our strategy 2023 plus, we say that we want to produce students whom they are innovative. And we want to produce students whom they are digitally skilled or digitally smart. And we also want to produce students whom they are technologically, whom they are knowledgeable about the techno entrepreneurship. So when you look at our mission and the visions of VUT, we are moving to that direction that Christelle is talking about, the technology that is used in the industry of tourism. So it's our mandate to make sure that we produce these students whom we are saying that they can be innovative, they can be techno entrepreneurs, they can also be the students whom they are digitally skilled. So for us as the university to meet that objective of us as VUT, we budget money for the softwares that are used in the tourism industry. We do have the labs whereby we have installed those softwares that are utilized by the students to make sure that we keep up with what is needed in the industry. Technology is there. We can't, tourism is business. We can't run business without technology, latest technology. So we do have those labs whereby we have installed those softwares that are needed by the industry through the advices that we got from the industry, that this software can work better for your students. So we do that as the university. We budget every year for those latest softwares that we can introduce our students to them before they can go to the industry, so that they should understand clearly what is needed in the industry in terms of the IT technology that is used in the tourism industry. So we do have those labs. There are some students at third year level, there are some workshops that they do whereby they utilize those softwares that we have. We do have the lab in the department whereby these students, they go there, they are trained about these softwares that are used. We have got the one for tourism, we have got the one for hospitality, we have got the one for the ecotourism one. We invite people from outside to train them for EIS, environmental impact assessments, and the GIS. So we do try as the university, because our mandate is to make sure that we produce students whom they are technologically skilled, the students whom they are whom they are knowledgeable about the techno entrepreneurs. So we do something as the university to make sure that we close that gap of the technology, because obviously the industry of tourism needs technology. Just for the bookings that has been mentioned by Christelle, the students need to know that system of the bookings. They will only know it when the technology is there, when the software is there for them to learn. Like I've indicated that we are going to open the travel agent for students. Obviously, there are some softwares that we'll need to make sure that the students are able to achieve that objective of them running the travel agent on campus, the tourism students at third year level. So I wanted to mention that thing of the technology, that the university is doing a lot on that. Then I'll go to the second point about the aspiration of doing tourism and ecotourism. Like I've mentioned, that tourism is business. Our students, they do modules like tourism entrepreneurship, tourism management, tourism marketing, tourism human resources. They cover all those things that are covered in management, because we believe that these students that we are producing, they can be managers in the tourism establishments, or they can start their own businesses. Christelle mentioned the issue of the tour guides. The tourism students, both tourism and ecotourism, the tourism one, they do the pure tour guide. The eco one, they do the range, game range tour guides. We are expecting those students to go in the industry to practice that. Or if they don't get hired, they can open their own businesses of tour guiding, whereby they can be the service providers for big companies like Kruger, because they can run their own business of tour guiding and provide that service to any protected area, so that they can provide those field guiding activities that are needed in the tourism industry. So we are trying as the universities, and our mandate is to produce students whom they can be employed or whom they can start their own businesses. So entrepreneurship is there. You go to the curriculum of tourism, they have got tourism entrepreneurship. You go to the curriculum of ecotourism, they have got ecotourism entrepreneurship at third year level. You go to hospitality, food service management, entrepreneurship is there. So we try by all means to make sure that our curriculum is aligned with what the industry needs. Our students, they need to know about entrepreneurship, and we teach them from the classroom what entrepreneurship and how they can start their own businesses. We do have lots of things like hospitality. They have started this thing that we call it the cook-off, whereby the students whom they are doing hospitality, they do those businesses whereby they invite people to come and eat and generate income. It's part of the entrepreneurship activities that we do in the department. I don't know if I've covered everything, Mr. Sam.
Yeah, no, it's quite helpful. You know, I'm listening to you on behalf of the students out there, or the high school students who want to enter this field. Mentioning all this is really helpful, because they need to know of the prospects before they commit their time to study towards tourism. Because I think it is, for a very long time, is looked at narrowly because we are not stretching our imagination enough. And I'm happy that we're having Christy here. From a policy perspective and the government plans, you know, you mentioned that there will be the University for AI. I would be happy also to see the tourism university or whatever. I think there can never be enough trainers or educators of tourism. If we are at between 6 and 7% of the GDP, and there's a potential to grow to 80, I don't see how we are going to be able to do that if we don't really build, not just only depending on the universities, but also build specialized universities of all these branches of tourism, because the demand is there. As the country becomes even more known through the TTCSA's work, capacity must be built in the meantime.
Absolutely.
This point you raise of tourism sector recruiting people from other related functions, which is fine, but we need specialists. We need people that can go overseas and study and come and create these things. I mean, you have mentioned so many products today. Bird watching, you know, hiking. People are providing service to move people from A to B. Man, and some of these things we have talent. You know, African dishes. You go
Absolutely.
to Eastern Cape, the special African dishes, but the market, the skill, the capacity, the intent, the policy, the strategy, and then of course, innovation hub where this can be tested, games, indigenous games that we can teach everybody out there. I'm just repeating what you have just said, Christy, but for me is, why are we not having a university of tourism? I know there are colleges and there are academies there, but it looks like we need more. The universities are not enough. They have many other things to teach in. But if tourism sector is one sector that can transform and address unemployment in this country, it's a chicken and egg situation. What comes first?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm saying universities must come first.
I completely agree. I mean, I think we hear every year of so many students that wanted to study and just couldn't. And you know, when we were looking at the statistical backlog of this, we're sitting at about 12.4 million jobs backlog. And then every year we've got about 1.2 million students that require jobs. And at the moment, we're only creating about 600,000 jobs per year, which puts us at a 6,000 job deficit per year, which adds to the 12.4 million that continues to grow. And I do believe that tourism is the industry that can actually address so many social ills and so many injustices in terms of equality and civic freedom. And I think that at the end of the day, you're 100% correct that this is an industry that requires more investment, it requires more attention, it requires more urgency, and it requires more respect. I really believe that there's no other industry that will be able to harness our stories, to be able to assist us in branding ourselves, and also assist us in also packaging and showcasing our identity as a country. And we know we're a small country, but that packs a big punch. We remain on the lips of the world. And I think that it's important for us to now take that and use that as momentum for us to create opportunities for our very, very skilled student base and student pool. And I think that any person that is interested in going in this industry would not be sorry. I believe this industry will change and change rapidly. And I think that all begins with policy. Just to give you an idea, our policies haven't changed in tourism for over 9 years. And now that we are addressing the State of Transformation Survey, we would like to gazette new codes. We would like to adjust our policies. And we are hoping to do that in the next calendar year in 2027. And I believe that those changes not only will create jobs at an incremental stage, but it will change the landscape for millions of people overnight. So we are very proud of what we stand for at the Tourism Transformation Council. We are led by passion and we are led by change. And we believe that all our stakeholders that are willing to walk this journey with us, we are very excited to find and also fill the gaps. And even VUT, I would love to talk to you, Prof, about an MOU. I've been discussing with a lot of your counterparts throughout the country, colleges, TVET colleges, universities that provide tourism services, tourism educational services. I would love to be in contact with you after this and to expand our network. As you've mentioned, we need to be in partnership so we can create networks that can create catchment for the talent that is out there. One thing we don't lack is skill and talent. We really just need to mobilize and empower the talent that we have. But it's been an absolute pleasure, Sam, and I really look forward to the next invitation. Absolutely.
Beautiful, beautiful. That speaks to the question raised by Henry Taraga. Thank you, Christian.
Yes,
As VUT students with a student ecotourism chapter, how can we connect with external organizations for meaningful collaboration and innovation? I think you have answered that.
A wonderful question, but I'm willing to touch on it again. I really just want to thank you for your question. Thank you for being here. And thank you for engaging. Engagement and interaction and the willingness to interact is really the beginning. And I want to commend you for that. In regards to ecotourism, I think that sustainability and environmental studies in terms of tourism is a very, very big topic, and I believe it's becoming more and more trend. Environmental studies and environmental importance has usually been on the wayside, but as you know, so many of our landscapes, so many of our tourism products will only last for as long as we protect them. So of course, ecotourism is incredibly important. And as I've mentioned, bodies like Sand Parks, South African National Parks, as well as Ezamvelo and all of the nature reserves across the country have transformation units. They have enterprise supply development units, and I know that they are interested in collaboration. I would definitely encourage you to reach out and find out what programs they are currently running. And if there's a program that isn't running and you have an idea, I know that at this point in time, they're incredibly open to collaboration all the way down to students like you, if you are a student. And if you're an entrepreneur, they would love to onboard service providers. As Prof has mentioned, we want to diversify, we want to create competition within the workspace, and that will allow us to also keep our country and our market accountable and responsible. So competition is very important, and I think as long as you think about what it is you want to see within the tourism space, I believe partners are ready to meet you halfway.
Beautiful. Beautiful. There's another question there. Hi there. What is the biggest mistake you see graduates making when trying to enter the tourism industry? How can we avoid it?
That's a beautiful question, Katie. Thank you for indulging us and being here tonight. I really think the biggest mistake that graduates make when they try to enter the industry is not understanding how vast the industry is. If you don't decide exactly where it is you would like to get exposure. The industry will decide for you. And what can happen is there's duplications in roles and oversaturation. And I think that, as I've mentioned tonight, there are so many opportunities to unearth. And I think that if you go into the tourism industry with the mindset of what you would like to see come into the fold for the country in terms of not only as a stakeholder, but even as a prosumer, I believe we produce and consume together. We need to learn to collaborate, and the answers are in society. The answers are in people like you, and we need people like you to also look at where the gaps are and how we can address them by partnership and collaboration and innovation, as mentioned by our moderator this evening. But thank you for your question. And I think the best way to avoid it is to educate yourself. Put yourself out there, look at what the rest of the world is doing, and remember that South Africa is just as capable could work in this country. It's important to bring the right partners to the table and see how collaboration can solve those gaps. But thank you for the question, and I hope you've enjoyed tonight's show.
Beautiful. Your closing remarks, Limpho. Thanks, Christy.
Mr.
Absolutely.
Sam, I would like to add on the response of Christine on the question about the students when they enter the industry. We do offer the qualifications that are management, like is ecotourism, diploma in ecotourism management, tourism management, food service management. But the students, they must understand that when they get into the industry, they cannot just arrive and be managers. The problem with the students is that when they get into the industry, they must understand that they have to start somewhere. They can't just come, enter the industry and be the managers in those tourism establishments. That's the problem or the feedback that we always get from the industry people, that the weakness with our students is that they have got this feeling that because they have done the qualifications that says management, they will be managers when they get into the tourism industry. They will be managers, but they have to start somewhere to become managers in future. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. I appreciate that comment.
Yeah, it's a very good advice. It's a very good advice. One must journey through and learn all the ropes. And when you get at the level of management, then you understand the industry, its dynamics, and the culture in the industry, and of course the responsibilities that goes with being a manager and a leader in a business. Wonderful. I like the questions that are coming through. How can young people contribute to sustainable and eco-tourism in South Africa while also building meaningful careers? It's a related type of question. I know we're looking at time. We have a few minutes to respond to this question, because I like it because these are the students that are asking questions.
Of course. Of course. I think sustainability is incredibly important, because what sustainability really addresses is influence and impact. If you look at influence and impact, none of those can be done in a short duration. Long-term vision is very much required for impact to happen. So when you look at impact and you look at sustainability, what that means is making sure that everything we work on, whether it be a project or initiative, has a ripple effect, that there will be community beneficiary, that there will be, kind of sides and different spin-offs that come out of something, so that you know that you can take it further. And sustainability doesn't just speak to environment, it speaks to human capital, it speaks to development. I think, Sam, you mentioned a comment just before we went live, and you said to me, people can go into this industry, they start a job, and 5 years later, they're in the same job. That's not transformation. Transformation and sustainability automatically is synonymous with growth. And growth can only happen with progress. And progress only happens when we're moving forward, momentum. So what's really important to understand about eco-sustainability is, how do you make yourself sustainable? Your skill set, keeping up with the times, upskilling yourself, and also looking for practical skills. Don't only be interested in theory. Don't only be interested in the opportunities that lecturers like us, Prof, give to you. Think outside of the box. If you see an opportunity where you can lend yourself, where you can volunteer, where you can learn, where you can shadow, I really believe those kinds of skills will be something you can reap. As Prof has mentioned, you need to sow. You need to work. You need to put in, effort in order to make sure that your vision flourishes into the future. But ecotourism is an incredibly big topic, and I believe that we'll be seeing many jobs come out of this space looking into the future, because sustainability around pollution, around human capital, around being future fit, and also around understanding global politics and how our international relations can also change things. In times like COVID, what we need local tourism to thrive, because we didn't have international tourism. And what's important here is to unearth our country, because you have people who commute every day from 8. They go to work, they drive the same route every day. They never see the country. They don't even know that there's anything worth seeing, because they drive the same routes, they go to work, they come back, drive the same route home. People are very fixated on the day-to-day, and it's important to not only fall in love with our country, but fall in love with our identity, because you are because I am. We believe in Ubuntu, and I think Ubuntu comes down to understanding where you live and understanding the people who make you who you are. And I think that it's really important to look outside of yourself and create meaning where you are, and make sure that you remain valuable, not only to the industry, but to yourself. And I think in terms of the environment, it's about protecting our resources, protecting our animals. I will never, ever, thank the anti-poaching units enough for what they do, because our tourism is so heavily embedded in our animals. Our animals mean so much to us, and so many livelihoods around these nature reserves benefit from that. Their souvenirs wouldn't be bought if people didn't drive past there. Their food wouldn't be bought if people didn't drive past there. We need to learn that with nature, we need to work together. There's harmony in working together, that if we look after the environments that look after us, we will continue to thrive as a people and as a country.
We all must be ambassadors of our assets, tourism assets. Like Bafana is, like the Protea women playing semi-finals tomorrow. So
absolutely,
so that's really the closing remarks from my side. Before I close the show, colleagues, thank you so much. This has been very, very informative. Thanks for accepting to be our guest, and also on behalf of Dr. Annie Muletsane from the VUT Cooperative Education, and of course, Prof, our regards to the colleagues in the faculty, in the department there, and across the whole university. And you, Christy, this was amazing. I mean, I informed you 5 days ago, and here you are, and sharing generously so much insights into the work that our TTCSA is doing, the Department of Tourism, the government. I mean, this is the partnership we're talking about, and this is only beneficial to our stakeholders, especially our students,
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the questions keep on coming. Unfortunately, we ran out of time. Let me just read this one and then we close. What is the extent of reluctance from the co-op department on online intern service for qualification obtaining in place in service as prospective tourism entrepreneurs? It looks like it's a question directed to the university in terms of how
absolutely
to structure the internship. There is a question, Prof. We can take it to the colleagues at the university. And I'm sure this is a VUT student. Maybe let's invite him or her to come forward and have a conversation with you and Tsima Muletsane at the university. And this is why encouraging, because this program is for them, and this input is very helpful. So we appreciate it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers. This was the 24th edition of the VUT Cooperative Education Work Integral Learning Show, live here at COMETSA Television Network, our video streaming platform. My name is Sam Tsima. This is the mind, the journey, the destiny. We apply our mind to the journey that takes us to our destiny. Our shows are based on the principle we call the idea. We inform, we develop, we empower, and we associate. Thank you for tuning in. Colleagues, stay in the studio as I disconnect from our viewers.